Discover the incredible transformation after Dad exposed me as a parasite this Christmas. Jake stood at the window of his childhood home, staring out at the frosty landscape. Christmas was just around the corner. The scent of pine and cinnamon wafted through the air, but for him, it felt like a suffocating blanket. His father Tom, a weary Vietnam veteran, had always carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. And now, Jake felt like the heaviest burden of all. Sitting at the dinner table, festive lights blinking, Tom's disappointment loomed larger than the turkey on the table. "Jake, when are you going to get a real job?" Tom's gruff voice shattered the holiday cheer. "All you've done is drain our family resources. Like a parasite." Those words pierced through Jake, reverberating like a bell tolling his worthlessness. Those accusations would fester in Jake's mind, igniting a fire in his gut. That night, instead of surrendering to despair, he decided to rise. Fueled by that sting of judgment, he embarked on a journey outside the confines of their modest home. He took on odd jobs, painting fences, mowing lawns, shoveling snow, each one a brick in the wall he intended to build for himself. As Christmas approached, the hustle of his newfound determination pushed him forward. Late nights blurred into early mornings, his body screaming for rest while his heart beat for a different kind of purpose. It was here, amongst the discarded dreams and forgotten hopes of others, that he found a hidden gem, a local community center desperately needing volunteers to provide holiday meals for struggling families. Each meal he helped prepare was a memory in the making, each smile a light in the shadow of his father's harsh words. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Christmas Day drew near, Jake's small axe began weaving a beautiful tapestry of community spirit. It became evident that something was blossoming within him. Sacrifice, he learned, could manifest in many forms. It was more than just financial gain. It was about heart and goodwill. Yet, the ghost of his father's words loomed over him, a constant reminder of the emotional chasm he had to bridge. On Christmas Eve, adrenaline coursing through him, Jake made a bold decision. He organized a self-funded holiday meal for the community, pouring not just his funds, but his heart into every detail. As the big day approached, excitement buzzed in the air. Then, to his shock, Tom showed up at the community center, hesitantly walking through the door. Watching his son pour love into the event was an unexpected jolt. Pride and confusion danced in Tom's eyes, stirring the air thick with unresolved tension. Could this simple meal turn into a bridge for them? Jake's heart pounded, a blend of hope and anxiety igniting within him. With laughter and joy filling the space, Jake stood on the edge of transformation. The corner of his heart still longed for his father's approval, yet the thought of what they were building together hung in the air, leaving both father and son grappling for connection. Would this moment spark a change? As families rejoiced, Jake's anticipation thrummed in his chest. He was finally ready to confront the past and redefine his future. The air was thick with festivity, but it was Jake's heart that felt the weight pressing down heavily. As families gathered around tables, filled with laughter and cheer, the sight of his father standing awkwardly among them pulled at his thoughts. Had Tom really come to see this transformation? Or was he simply a spectator in a world he barely understood anymore? Jake's eyes shifted restlessly, scanning the room packed with grateful faces and warm smiles. Each interaction bubbled with life, a stark contrast to the tension caging Jake's own family sphere. He could feel the laughter slipping through his fingers, much like the old memories shared between him and his father. Regardless of the delights around him, there was a chill in the air that made even the holiday songs seem distant. "Hey, Jake," Maya, one of the volunteers, leaned in, her voice a comforting balm. "You've done an amazing job putting this together. Everyone's talking about how great the food is." She beamed at him, eyes bright with admiration. Thanks, Maya, he replied, not quite meeting her gaze. But it's not about me. It's about the people. Still, she countered, tilting her head slightly. You need to give yourself some credit. You sparked something here, something beautiful. Jake offered a ghost of a smile, but his heart remained fixed on Tom. Was this what it felt like to finally show his worth? Could a simple holiday meal alter decades of animosity and unspoken fears? Then, across the room, Tom caught his gaze. The two locked eyes for a brief moment, a powerful mix of emotions swirling between them. Was there hope in those creased lines of his father's face? Or simply fatigue from a lifetime of battles fought? Jake's heart raced. This was his moment to reach out, to close the gap, to let the air crackle with something other than the disappointment of the past. As the meal reached its peak, Jake gathered his breath and moved toward his father. Every footfall felt monumental, a test of resolve. Tom stood there, taking in the scene, and the pride that flickered in his eye caught Jake off guard. "Dad," Jake said, his voice steady despite the thunderous beat of his heart. I wanted you to see this. I wanted you to see what we're capable of." Tom's brow furrowed as he processed his son's words, a storm of emotions swirling behind his steely exterior. "You've done well, son. This is good," he managed finally, his voice rough like gravel. Jake's stomach flipped, surprise blooming inside him. It felt like a microcosm of hope, 10 years' worth of pressure beginning to lighten. But just as a smile crept onto Jake's lips, Tom appeared to retract back into himself. The tension rekindled as he turned his gaze away, a wall forming again between them. "Do I really matter, Dad? Or am I still just a burden?" The question slipped out before he could silence it, raw and unfiltered. Tom's shoulders tensed, and for a moment, it felt like all the air had been sucked from the room. Everyone held their breath, eyes darting between father and son as the very atmosphere thickened with emotion. The silence stretched on, a palpable thing hanging over them. Could this moment be the one that finally ignited a change? Could vulnerability lead to rebuilding those fractured threads of connection? Jake could feel the walls closing in, yet all he wanted was an answer. Did he have a future in his father's eyes, or was he still just a reflection of disappointment? As Jake waited, uncertainty twisted in his stomach. His heart urged him to push forward, hoping against hope that he had found the small spark of connection they both needed. Would Tom finally understand? Or would they remain trapped in silence, lost in the weight of unsaid words? Tom inhaled a shaky breath, and for a moment, Jake thought he might break the silence. His father's gaze lingered on the ground, a storm brewing in his chest. Then, as if caught in a flash of clarity, Tom looked up, eyes filled with something new: vulnerability. "You've never been a burden, Jake," he said, the words finally breaking free. I don't know how to show you." It felt like a light flickering in a long dark room. Glimmers of hope danced in Jake's chest. But then, Tom leaned away slightly, the familiar wall constructing itself again. Jake's heart sank as that moment of connection seemed to dissolve like mist in the morning sun. "Dad, we can talk about this," Jake urged, desperation creeping into his voice. "I want to understand. I want us to try." Tom's expression hardened. "It's complicated." The words were heavy, laden with years of hurt and misunderstanding. Other gatherings flooded back to Jake's mind, nights where silence was louder than arguments. He remembered the way Tom's face would shudder with disappointment, avoiding eye contact as if it were a wound too deep to touch. "Is it complicated because I've given you every reason to look at me that way?" Jake felt heat rise, but it wasn't anger. It was a need for clarity. A need for closure. Have I really done everything wrong? For a moment, the world around them faded. The clinks of glasses, the soft hum of conversations, laughter, it all slipped away. There was just him and Tom, two men trapped in a cycle of misunderstanding and pain. What did I want? Jake thought. What do I even want now? "You don't understand," Tom said, eyes narrowing. "You think you can just throw a party and everything will be fine. It won tea. But we've come this far, Dad." "I'm trying to create something better for both of us," Jake retorted, frustration bubbling. "This meal, these people, it's real, Dad. Can't you see that?" Tom's gaze softened, just a touch, as if he were considering Jake's words. But then he shook his head, eyes locking back onto the crowd. My life, it's not that simple. Jake swallowed hard. Why not? He took a step closer, determined. Why can't we fix this? Because I'm scared, Tom confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't want to hurt you again. That revelation hit Jake like a freight train. The truth radiated between them, pulling at the very threads of their shared history. I'm scared too, Dad. But if you don't let me, in his voice softened, we'll never break free from this pain. The tension hung in the air, barbed with long-held fear and unfurling hope. People around them continued to laugh and eat, the cheerful atmosphere juxtaposed with the emotional standoff taking place. Jake leaned in, striving for connection, draping his heart out there, hoping it would be enough to bridge the chasm between them. Can we? Can we just talk, like we used to? Jake pleaded, Tom's face twisted in thought, eyes flickering between regret and yearning. Jake felt the tight coil of anxiety in his chest loosen, just a little as he waited. But then the moment shattered. A loud crash erupted from the side of the room, drawing attention away from them. The clatter of falling plates left everyone gasping, and Jake turned to see a small boy, tears streaming down his cheeks, surrounded by shards of broken dinnerware. Laughter faded, replaced with concern like a shroud. In that split second, Jake saw Tom rising instinctively, his fatherly instincts kicking in once more. Hold on, Tom called, making his way through the scattered crowd. Jake's heart sank. Here was yet another moment diverted. As he watched his father rush to help, the specter of regret tugged at Jake again. Where had they just been? And with every second slipping away, was he losing his chance for real connection? Was it just about me? Jake whispered to himself, watching Tom's figure retreat. Or was this about something bigger? The uncertainty gripped him tight. Would they reconnect amidst the chaos, or would this moment slip through his fingers once more, swept away by actions beyond their control? Jake stood frozen, the laughter around him fading like an echo in a vast canyon. His eyes were glued to his father, who was now crouched beside the small boy, soothing him with gentle words. The scene felt surreal, as if time had slowed down just for him. People rushed around, concern etched on their faces, but Jake felt like he was in a bubble, watching everything unfold from a distance. As he looked on, something inside him twisted. So much of what he had hoped for had been dashed by a single crash. This moment, meant to be a turning point between him and Tom, was slipping further away with every gentle pat Tom gave the boy, every whispered promise of comfort. Was this what it would always be? The two of them standing on opposite sides, always waiting for the other to make a move. He shook his head, unwilling to go down that path again. Empowered by an urgency he had not anticipated, Jake stepped closer, forcing himself through the crowd. He needed to reach Tom, to bridge the gap that always seemed to widen when he finally thought they were progressing. Dad, he called out, his voice cutting through the noise. The hall quieted slightly, heads turning, eyes landing on him. Tom looked up, and for the first time, his gaze met Jake's directly. The small boy snuffled, eyes wide as he took in the new presence. Tom, still crouched down, forced a small smile toward Jake, but the warmth in his eyes flickered. I'm okay, buddy, Tom said gently, turning his full attention back to the child. It was just an accident. Everyone makes mistakes. As he spoke, Jake could see the tender care he extended. A kind of love that seemed abundant for others, but sparingly doled out to him. Isn't that what I'm trying to tell you? Jake implored, his heart racing as he wrestled with the moment. Maybe you need to be honest with yourself about what you've been teaching me all these years, about mistakes. The boy shifted closer to Tom, still sniffling but feeling safe. The room stood half-collapsed in an emotional tug-of-war. Tom hesitated, humor lacing anxiety in his expression as he weighed Jake's words. What are you saying, Jake? Tom's voice dropped lower, filled with tension. It was almost a plea wrapped in uncertainty, like he was afraid of the answer. I'm saying, if you can forgive him, why can't you forgive me? The urgency of his words hung in the air, a challenge delivered softly yet firmly. If we keep pushing each other away, we're just going to keep being alone, Dad. We didn't need to be like this. The atmosphere crackled. Tom's mouth opened slightly, a silent breath caught in his throat. Intertwined emotions flickered across his features: confusion, doubt, and finally, a hint of something softer. Then, the little boy spoke, his voice shaky but brave. My mom always tells me that if you break something, you can fix it. You just have to try really hard. Everyone exchanged glances. Jake felt a warmth spreading through his chest as he watched a slow realization dawn on Tom's face. Could this boy's innocent wisdom help them unlock their own broken pieces? Jake, Tom began slowly. I don't know how with those words, Jake felt something uncoil in him, a thread of hope that perhaps this was the catalyst they needed. Every moment of discomfort, every recoiling gesture, they could address it together, piece by piece. But as Tom searched for words, a shriek of laughter burst from the crowd. They were responsible for the mess in the first place, but it reminded Jake the chaos didn't have to define them. Behind him, music started playing again, laughter bubbling back to life. Just come back, Dad, Jake urged softly, his heart pounding. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to try. Their eyes locked again, and Jake felt the weight of the moment. As Tom opened his mouth to respond, Jake's phone buzzed in his pocket, shattering the fragile stillness. An unknown number flashed on the screen. The name was familiar yet unexpected. He hesitated, torn from the powerful connection with his father. What had just begun to bloom between them felt vulnerable, like a bud brushing against a sudden frost. Dad, please, Jake started, but he found himself distracted by the incoming call. Would he answer it, or would he prioritize what was happening in front of him? Either choice could change everything. Jake's heart raced as he stared at the glowing screen, the call hovering like a ghost between him and his father. He felt like he was standing at a crossroads, each path leading to a vastly different outcome. Tom continued to search Jake's eyes, pleading silently for his son to choose. He was still crouched by the small boy, now resting a hand on the child's shoulder as if to hold on to a sense of stability. The room buzzed with distant laughter, but in this moment, everything felt suspended in time. Dad, I need you here, Jake said softly, his voice laced with urgency. Each word was a slice through the doubt that threatened to creep back in. He wanted to show Tom that they could mend their relationship, but the phone's persistent buzzing gnawed at him. He glanced down at the unfamiliar number again. Thoughts swirled in his mind. What if it was something important? What if it was someone reaching out about the very things he had been avoiding? He could answer and find an escape from this painful moment, or he could turn away, risking everything they had just begun to reclaim. Jake, Tom's voice trembled, breaking through his racing thoughts. It's not just about you. It's about me too. I've made mistakes, big ones, and I don't know how to fix them. The vulnerability in Tom's voice struck a chord deep inside Jake. He smiled softly, trying to show his father that he didn't have to bear the weight alone. We can figure it out together. Just let me in, Dad. But the phone buzzed again, a stark reminder of the outside world pressing in. With a deep breath, Jake's hand trembled as he reluctantly answered it, covering the screen so Tom wouldn't see the caller ID. He stepped aside, putting distance between them just as the call connected. Hello? His voice caught with anxiety, but he forced his tone to be steady. Jake, it's me. A familiar voice emerged from the other end. It was Sarah, his old childhood friend. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important, but I really need to talk to you. The urgency in her tone sent a rush of emotion through him. After a moment of silence, he stammered, Yeah, what's going on? I'm in town for the holidays, and I need your help. There's something you need to know. Jake's mind raced back to the past, to memories woven with joy but also shadows he had tried to bury. Can it wait? I'm, right in the middle of something here. He glanced back at Tom, whose expression had shifted, hope mingled with confusion. Not really, Jake. It's important. I wouldn't call if it wasn't. Jake hesitated as he felt the swell of conflicting emotions. His father was right there, ready to reach for him, yet the past was echoing in his ears through Sarah's words. Okay, can you tell me what's happening then? No, Jake. You have to see this for yourself. Just meet me. Please. The gravity of her request weighed on him. Could what she had to say truly be more vital than this moment with Tom? But a familiar worry gnawed at him. Was it about that old wound they had shared? Jake swallowed hard, torn between the pull of nostalgia and the potential for new beginnings. He turned back toward Tom, whose gaze searched his face with expectation. There was so much that had yet to be said, yet he felt like he was standing at the edge of an unraveling. "Jake?" Tom's voice was gentle, urging. With one last flutter of hope, Jake looked back at his father, conflicted. "I'll be right back, Dad." "I promise." He disconnected the call and took a step towards Tom, only to feel the gravity of choices heavy upon him. "Are you ready to try?" Tom asked quietly, and Jake felt the question resonate in his very core. Could he? Could they? Leaving Tom felt wrong, but something about Sarah's words had ignited a fire in him. It was a decision that could change everything. What if I don't come back? Jake thought, uncertainty coiling around his heart like a tightrope he had to walk. He glanced back at the door, choices beckoning him. Did he dare unravel yet another thread of their fragile connection? But the need for answers still clung to him, pressing forward like waves crashing against a rocky shore. "Okay, I'll go," Jake whispered under his breath. But as he took a step away, would the distance be too far to close again? Jake stepped outside, the door creaking shut behind him like a closing chapter. The air was sharp and biting, winter's breath lingering over the town wrapped in twinkling lights and laughter. He hesitated on the porch, a part of him longing to return, to embrace the warmth of his father's presence. But Sarah's voice echoed in his mind, creating ripples of unease. She needed him, and that urgency clawed at his insides, pushing him forward. He pulled his coat tighter around him, stepping into the night as the weight of his decision hung heavy. He found a quiet alley where the noise of the festivities faded. As he waited for Sarah, doubts swirled around him like falling snow. What was so critical that it required his immediate attention? He let the thoughts tumble around until headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating a familiar face. Sarah parked and emerged, her breath visible in the cold air. She looked different, but the same, a wild mix of confidence and vulnerability. Her eyes sparkled, but the tension in her posture told another story. "Jake," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "thank you for coming." "Yeah, well, you made it sound urgent." He tried to keep it light, but felt a tightness in his throat. She nodded, biting her lip. "It is. There's something I need to show you. Remember those old times? The trials we faced?" His heart sank. The past had a way of creeping back when he least expected it. "I'd rather not go there," he replied. "I know, but trust me. This needs to happen." She walked closer, lowering her voice. "Please, just come with me." Jake followed her, insecurities and memories clashing within. As they walked, he glanced back toward the warmly lit house, where laughter spilled out. Tom was inside, waiting, hoping. Was he really going to jeopardize that for a trip down memory lane? In moments, they arrived at a cozy cafe, its windows frosted over. Inside, the aroma of coffee and cinnamon wrapped around them. Sarah led him to a corner table, where a single envelope lay, marked with his name. "What's this?" he asked, picking it up with hesitant hands. "Open it," she urged, her anxiety palpable. With curiosity and apprehension, he ripped it open. Inside were photos, old, tattered images that transported him back decades. Memories of laughter echoed in his mind. And then he saw it, the final photo, one that made his breath catch in his throat. "Jake, look closely." Sarah pointed to a familiar scene captured in the snapshot, but something about it felt off. "That day at the lake, do you remember?" Of course, it was the day that marked a turning point, a day that defined friendships and decisions, races to remember, yet challenges hidden beneath. "I didn't just lose you that day," she continued. "I lost myself too. There's more you need to know, though. We were all part of something bigger than we understood back then." Jake's heart raced as pieces of unspoken truths floated to the surface. "What do you mean?" he urged, feeling the ground shift beneath him. "Something is happening, something that involves us all. It's time we confront it." As uncertainty washed over him, dread twisted in his gut. Could facing the past truly unearth something new? Did he dare take a step further into this tangled web? But the thought of leaving behind what he had tried hard to mend with his father nagged at him. Jake. Sarah's voice pulled him back, full of sincerity and something deeper. This isn't just about us. It's about moving forward. With the envelope still clutched in his hand, he felt the weight of his choices spiraling. Could he embrace whatever was coming? Was he ready to unravel old wounds in the hope of finding something beautiful? I don't know if I can do this, he whispered, feeling the path behind him disappear into the shadows. What would their revelations mean? What would it take to finally heal the past? As Sarah's gaze pierced through him, the urgency flickered, daring him to embrace whatever was next. Then let us find out together, she said softly, grounding him as uncertain yet tantalizing possibilities danced in the air. What had he yet to discover? Jake's mind buzzed, the cafe's warmth enveloping him, but it did little to ease the chill running down his spine. His heart raced, caught between the past he thought he had left behind and the uncertainty of what lay ahead. He looked down at the envelope, his fingers shaking slightly as he considered the implications of the memories it held. Do you really think it's time? He asked, peering into Sarah's eyes, searching for reassurance amid the swirling doubts. I mean, the past isn't something you just dust off and look at again. It's messy. Sarah's gaze softened, and she reached across the table to gently touch his hand. I know it's messy, Jake. But we can't just pretend it never happened. Whatever this is, we can face it together. We owe it to ourselves. He inhaled deeply, the scent of roasted coffee mingling with the cinnamon in the air. Just as Sarah said, that chapter's still open. It always had a way of reopening itself, like a door you thought was locked. He shifted in his seat, determined to wrestle with the ghosts that lingered just beneath the surface. With a sigh, he slid the photos back into the envelope, putting it aside for a moment. So what are you saying? That we should just dredge it all up? Relive the pain? No, she said, her voice resolute. It's time to understand it. To process it. We can't move forward until we do. A shiver raced through him as he thought of what lay beneath the secrets they'd both kept close, the shame woven into their youth. He thought about that day at the lake, the laughter that had echoed before the storm broke. It felt like a lifetime ago, yet somehow fresh, like the chill in the air. As if she sensed his turmoil, Sarah leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. There are things I've wanted to tell you for years. There's something that connects us all, Jake. It's not only about me and you. It's bigger than that. It's about understanding who we were and how it shaped who we became. He swallowed hard, uncertainty rising in the back of his throat. What do you mean? Her eyes sparkled, holding a mixture of fear and fervor. There was a reason things went downhill after that day. We all took paths away from each other, but those paths are tied together. We're not just separated by our decisions, we're bound by them. Jake felt the weight of her words settle in his chest. Could it be true? Had their choices woven them together in ways he'd never considered? A thick silence fell between them as he pondered this. As he finally met her gaze again, determination began to replace his doubts. All right, let us confront it. Together. The unfamiliar resolve felt grounding, almost electrifying. If they were going to face the past, they would have to be brave, no matter what they unearthed. Sarah smiled, and the tension between them began to unfurl, replaced with a warmth that had been absent for too long. Thank you, Jake. I think this is just the start. But just then, the cafe door swung open. A figure stepped in, shaking off the snow that clung to their coat, and Jake's heart dropped at the sight. It was someone he hadn't expected to see. Someone who had once been a cornerstone in their story. Jake, the newcomer said, eyes wide with surprise. Jake's pulse quickened. Could this person unlock even more of the past than he'd bargained for? What new revelations lay ahead as the walls he'd built up began to crack? Do we really have to do this now? He thought, feeling the ground shift yet again beneath him. Jake froze, his mind racing as the figure took a step closer. It was Mark, their childhood friend, the last person he expected to walk through that door. Memories flooded back, each one a jagged piece of a puzzle he thought he'd tucked away. Mark had been their anchor, the one who understood their secrets better than anyone else, and the one who had disappeared just when they needed him most. What are you doing here? Jake managed to choke out, anger and confusion mingling in his voice. Mark's gaze darted between Jake and Sarah, his face a map of emotions: surprise, guilt, perhaps a hint of regret. I heard you were in town. Figured I'd stop by, he stammered, his voice cracking with uncertainty. Sarah squeezed Jake's hand reassuringly, but he could sense the tension thickening the air. Memories of laughter shared by the lake and late-night talks shifted to moments drenched in betrayal and heartbreak. When had things gone so wrong? Things are complicated, Jake said, his own voice steadying as he stared at Mark, demanding an explanation. It's not easy to just show up after all this time. Mark swallowed hard, his eyes clouding. I know. I didn't handle things well back then. I was overwhelmed. I thought I was doing the right thing by staying away. By abandoning us? Jake shot back, feeling the weight of his words. A flicker of hurt crossed Mark's face, but he didn't look away. No, I wasn't abandoning anyone. I just thought it would be easier. I thought you all would be better off without me. The cafe felt smaller, the world outside slipping away. Jake was on a precipice, torn between old frustrations and a yearning to understand. This conversation was the last thing he anticipated, but now it was here, and it demanded resolution. Easier? Sarah interjected, her voice firm. I think you're wrong, Mark. You don't get to decide what's easier for us. Mark looked at her, confusion softening his expression. I didn't mean to hurt either of you. I wanted to protect us, protect you from the chaos. We needed you, Mark, Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. You think we wanted to carry those burdens alone? We were hurting. We needed our friend. An uncomfortable silence fell, thick enough to cut. Jake watched as Mark's eyes pleaded for understanding. I've lived with regret, Mark said finally. I thought I could forget everything if I stayed away. But I could never escape, not from what happened, not from you guys. Jake felt a flicker of something, hope? Maybe, but also doubt. What do you want now? He pushed, searching for clarity. I want to make amends, Mark said, determination creeping into his voice. I want to help you both face the past together. The cafe buzzed around them, but inside their little bubble, the world had shifted. The thought of diving back into old wounds with Mark felt both daunting and strangely liberating. Would reopening this door lead to healing or further heartache? Is it possible to face everything after all this time? Sarah's question lingered, filled with hope yet tinged with fear. Mark nodded slowly, his expression serious. Together, we can just find a way through. Whatever it takes. Jake's heart fluttered, and for the first time, he felt the weight of the past shifting, but he was also aware of the intensity that realization brought. Could they really transform their pain into something more powerful? But just then, a loud crash echoed from the back of the cafe, a tray tumbling to the floor, coffee splattering everywhere, drawing their attention. Jake felt a knot tightening in his stomach. The past was not done with them yet. What more awaited them as they picked through the fragments of their history? Jake's heart raced as he glanced toward the source of the noise. The cafe had become a whirlwind of frantic movement. Waitstaff rushed to clear the mess, customers murmured in surprise, and the atmosphere shifted from intimate confrontation to one of chaotic distraction. Mark shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting between the mess and the two of them. Maybe we should know. Jake interrupted, drawing a steadying breath. We're not going anywhere until we talk this out. The thump of his heart echoed in his ears, a rhythmic reminder of the urgency he felt to address the messy emotions tangled among them. Jake, Sarah's voice was soft yet firm, like a gentle insistence. Are you sure? I mean, it's kind of chaotic here. He turned toward her, feeling a swell of gratitude for her grounding presence. We've been chaotic long enough, Sarah. If we're going to do this, let us really do it. Mark nodded slowly, as if he finally understood that this needed to happen. Okay then, let's find a quieter place. Here's good enough, Jake replied, planting himself more firmly at the table. We're already in it. Mark exhaled, the weight of reluctance palpable in the air. Fine. I've missed you guys. I really want to fix this. But I don't know how to start. Jake shifted his gaze to the cafe door, catching a glimpse of the world outside, a world that had moved on while they were trapped in their past. Start by telling us what you've been doing since you left. We deserve that much from you. Mark hesitated, the words clearly stuck in his throat. I haven't been okay. I thought moving away would help. I tried to start fresh, but it never worked. I ended up running from everything, even myself. That doesn't explain why you disappeared, Jake urged, leaning in closer. The emotions churned within him, a tempest of frustration and longing. We were your friends, damn it. We were in this together. I was ashamed, Mark admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I thought I could escape my mistakes by cutting you two out of my life. I was scared I'd ruin your lives too. But we were all hurting. Sarah interjected, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. You didn't realize how much we needed each other to heal. We could have faced it together. Jake felt the tension intensifying, emotions on the edge of a volcano, ready to erupt. Do you even realize what you left behind? The weight of it? You think just saying you're sorry is enough? Mark's face crumpled under the weight of that accusation. I know it's not enough, and I know I can't change the past. But I want to be there for you both now, if you'll let me. Can we trust you? Jake asked, desperation creeping into his voice. What if you just leave again? I want to, Mark promised, a fiery determination igniting his gaze. I'll prove to you I'm not running this time. Just then, another crash shook the cafe, but Jake barely noticed. The storm inside him was louder. Mark's presence, the raw honesty of their exchange, ignited something in him, a flicker of hope amid the uncertainty. Sarah squeezed Jake's hand, her voice steady as she spoke next. Trust takes time. But if you really want to make it right, you need to understand what we've gone through, too. Tell me, Mark urged, his eyes filled with sincerity, a spark of understanding growing in their depths. I'm here. I want to know. Jake took a deep breath, grappling with the weight of buried emotions. He opened his mouth, ready to reveal the secrets of their shared pain, but before he could speak, another figure entered the cafe, capturing his attention completely. The door swung wide, and a familiar silhouette stepped inside, a figure from the past he never expected to see again. Jake? Sarah? The voice was unmistakable, sending a chill down his spine. What now? Jake thought, unsettled, as the atmosphere thickened with a tension he hadn't anticipated. Would this new arrival intensify their healing or shatter it completely? Jake's heart skipped a beat as he recognized the voice. It was Lisa, their childhood friend who had been swept up in the whirlwind of their past, leaving strands of unresolved tension trailing behind her. She stepped into the cafe, her presence like a spotlight illuminating their shadows. What are you doing here? Jake asked, his voice caught between surprise and irritation. I couldn't stay away any longer, Lisa said, her eyes scanning the table, gauging the atmosphere. I heard you were all back together. That's brave. Brave? Jake echoed incredulously. You think this is brave? Jake, hold on, Sarah said, gently squeezing his arm to remind him to steady his emotions. Let her speak. Lisa took a deep breath, visibly steeling herself to confront the storm she had long avoided. I know things ended badly. I left without a word, and I should have been there when you all needed me. That was my choice, and I regret it daily. Mark's expression softened at the sight of Lisa, and he shifted slightly in his seat, as if preparing to bridge another gap. You left us all with unanswered questions, Lisa. We needed you too. I know, she replied, her voice trembling with the weight of her admission. The truth is, I was scared. I thought if I stepped away, if I didn't interfere, you'd be better off without the distractions I brought. It was selfish of me. Selfish doesn't even begin to cover it, Jake said, his frustration boiling over. You vanished when we needed all hands on deck. I'm sorry, she pleaded, tears glistening in her eyes. I thought I was protecting you. I thought I was saving myself from being the anchor keeping everyone down. Mark leaned forward, interested. That's exactly how I felt. I've lived with the regret not being there for you guys. It's suffocating. Jake watched the two of them exchange a knowing glance. They were recognizing their shared cowardice, a cowardice he had felt, too. What if we were wrong? Sarah interjected, her voice soft yet resolute. What if we needed each other more than we recognized? What if we were all just kids trying to make sense of a world we didn't understand? Silence hung, heavy with the weight of realization. Each one of them echoed the burden of choosing solitude in the face of pain. "What should we do?" Lisa asked, a tremor in her voice. "How do we start?" "We show up," Jake replied, feeling the spark of hope flicker in his chest. "We own our mistakes and our past. Together." Suddenly, the noise of the cafe seemed distant, drowned out by the clarity of their shared intention. They were all standing at this same crossroads, facing the ramifications of their childhood choices while knowing they had the power to choose how to move forward together. Jake felt the tension slackening as he looked at the faces surrounding him, each illuminated with honesty and vulnerability. "We owe it to ourselves to see this through. To really face our past and rebuild from it, piece by piece." Mark and Lisa nodded, their faces reflecting a mix of regret and hope. "We're still here," Sarah added, breaking the silence, her eyes shining with determination. "Maybe we can form something new. Something better." As Jake looked around the table, a sense of warmth enveloped him, melting away the anger and regret that had built up over the years. They could be messy together. They could heal together. "Let us start with what we've all been avoiding. The truth," he said. He could feel the walls they had built together crumbling. There would be pain, but there would also be growing together. Maybe this was what he needed after all the strength found in vulnerability and openness. The cafe buzzed again as laughter erupted from the other patrons, but within their small corner, they began to speak their stories intertwining, each voice lifting another toward redemption. This would be a journey steeped in honesty. As laughter filled the air, Jake took a deep breath. For the first time in a long time, he felt excited, not for the past, but for a future they'd build collectively. With regret fragile, but a steady resolve burgeoning, he looked at his friends, ready to forge a new path. This was it. Their moment, and as he shared his sigh of relief, Jake whispered to himself, "It's time. It was time to heal. So let us do this." And you need to subscribe now to ensure you catch every moment as it unfolds. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It genuinely makes a difference in helping others find hope in their own stories. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters to us, and your journey inspires.